stacking codes, taking care of her bill, case closed. A woman ain't never seen before, like a brand new car you just brought. Thinking your car gon' make her on the road. She don't need a man, she has her own. Hey, look, mama, yeah, you got it going on. You can see clearly she is so grown. You can meet my mama, you the type I can take home. Yeah, you got it going on. 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 You got it going on like them collard greens. You ain't gotta say nothing like the mannequins. Can we live wood? Can we be friends? Maybe we can spend the weekend in the B-same. She straight, she ain't got no loose aim. She ain't no gold digger, she don't need a plane. An independent lady, she don't need a man. Can I have your autograph? Can I be your fame? I'm you that queen that's on the promised land. Together we'll never fall.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Comedy Hour Live. This is AnnaMarie, and I got some special guests in the house tonight. I have my friend Rich Scheidner, and you know what? I mean, I'm notorious for mispronouncing names.
Nail it.
I did. I got that. Thank God. And his sidekick over here, Mikey. You just want to be Mikey?
Yeah, tonight, yeah.
Tonight you just Mikey.
Oh,
okay.
give him the whole name,
Give him the
man.
whole- you know what?
Loa, last name.
There you go.
Last name.
Yeah, he's brought Mike in just for moral support. Yeah, right.
No, Mikey's hilarious, man. He's a top-ranked amateur comedian.
I was
Top
going to
rank.
say that he's probably one of the most unknown, fabulously funny people that I've
Exactly.
ever met. He's ridiculously funny.
Absolutely.
But you know, evidently, what is it? He's made such a great living. He doesn't
He's
need
smart.
to get out.
You don't want
He's
to lose your
smart.
amateur status, man.
No.
Not at this point.
No.
There's no sense to give it up.
And I need to plug a friend of mine, Yahweh Poetic. It was the song that opened up tonight. You guys catch
That
him on
was nice.
SoundCloud. That's pretty good, huh?
Very
He's got
nice.
it going on. That's what I got going on.
I don't even smoke
wait.
dope, and I felt high.
I want to say this, Rich. This is your new book. Can you see the book? Is that there? Okay. This book, Kicking Through the Ashes. I told you I feel like I hung out with you all week. I loved your stories. I'm like highlighting. I mean, in starting out and taking everybody through, like I have comedians on here, and a lot of my friends that are listening to it had no idea. They figure you guys are all these fucking happy, just sunshiny people, and they're so funny. And when you meet people, how many times my comedians, I'll say that, how many times do people say make me laugh, or hey, you're the funny guy, right? People
Yeah.
seek you out,
Yeah.
you know, just be funny. I wonder if hookers go through that when they're off work. But anyways, that's something that when I've talked to comedians and found out there's more to this story, the backdrop lines, what they've gone through, how you grew up. I mean, listening to you talk about your family
Yeah.
and what was like growing up in your household, I can
Yeah.
relate.
You know, it's ancient. Abraham Lincoln said the source of humor is sorrow. Twain said it. I mean, everybody. It's not like we just invented sorrow turns into comedy. That's ancient. Ancient. And so, you know, you're forged. You're forged in that
Tragic
cauldron.
comedy.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
what it is.
Yeah.
I
You
mean, I
learn
agree
that
with
as a
you.
defense mechanism growing up, and you're taught it.
Right.
Comics
because-
aren't born; they're forged.
Yeah, the idea of being funny, they say, is a coping mechanism.
Absolutely.
It's like, but you know what? I have to say this though. What you went through. What I'm amazed at what you went through, because everybody knows I get a lot of people telling me I'm funny, I ought to do stand up, and I've been up on stage, I've done it. And the thing of it is that what you endure, I mean, what you literally put yourself through is like equivalent. And you said Phyllis Diller said that to you. You got to learn how to like eating shit.
Yeah, it's show business. You got to learn to like eating shit.
Yeah.
And you got to keep eating it till you learn to like it. Then you got to eat some more, and you got to eat shit every day.
Yes, and I mean,
Keeps you humble, keeps you
humble.
hungry.
And where, you know, I'd be like, wow, and you got back up on stage. Why? It's like the what you were in boot camp for was how basically you grew up.
Yeah.
And a lot of would you say, if I went through worse shit growing up? I mean, a lot of the stories that they have to tell.
Well, I put in a book there. I don't know if you got to the point where I had a theory about, because comics, it's an extreme profession. Like, we all know funny people, but not everybody goes to the stage. I know a lot of funny people who never had the urge to go to
Right.
the stage. So why is a comic on stage? I thought comics are born one. They're raised one way or another. You're either raised the prince of the family or princess, where everything you do is celebrated. You're just getting so much attention, so much adulation. So when you become an adult, where are you going to get that in real life? You know, in an insurance office, people aren't going to applaud when you sell a good policy.
Right.
Where are you going to get that kind of? So the only place you're going to get it is on stage.
Right.
Right. Or you were raised like a POW, beaten like a dog, emotionally or physically or both. So you're looking for that approval and attention you never got. So you go on stage, and so the person who's raised by like the prince, they have like sort of a carefree, narcissistic performance. Like, look, mom, no hands, right?
True.
And the POWs on stage with a gun in their head, going, "Can you see me now? Can you see me now?"
It's true though.
And I can tell just by normally I can tell by the act, but just by the way they take applause, because the prince can't get enough applause. They stand there and they soak it all up. Come on, I'll stay up here as long as you want to applaud. I'll stay here until you finally break and stand up and give me that standing ovation I deserve. And the POW, man, they either drop the mic on the ground or they stick it in the mic stand. They get off as fast as possible before the audience changes their mind.
Right. That was the thing that amazed me about meeting comedians once they stepped off that stage, and their personas were so
Very different.
very different.
Yeah,
And-
It's just. I grew up, man. My dad was an alcoholic, and a lot of times violent when he drank, and it was very. You never knew how things were going to turn out, whether it was a meal or a holiday or whatever, and he was very funny though. But when he loved comedy, so I was like watching him, and I go, when what I used to take his comedy albums out. He had comedy albums, right, and the Bob Newhart or he had Red Fox in the back. He used to go see these guys live. I didn't even notice when I was growing up. He told me later. He'd go down to Atlantic City to the black nightclubs and see Mom's Mabley and Red Fox, and he loved comedy. And I'd play these records when he was gone at daytime. I'd pull them out. I was like 11, 12 years old, going, "What's making my dad laugh?" Because I never seen him laugh like that.
Wow.
I never seen him happy like this. So I'm trying to figure it out. I'm listening to Bob Newhart or Jonathan Winters and Red Fox. So this is what's making him laugh. So it fascinated me.
So you never would have wandered there anyways. And you said that your dad was, rather than say you were in showbiz.
Well, he didn't like me becoming a comic. I quit law school. I was trying to be a lawyer. I was in law school to be a lawyer. So they thought they were going to get free legal advice. Nobody needed jokes. So when I went to go off and do comedy in New York City, literally people told me later, they'd ask, "Hey, what happened to your son? I thought he was going to be a lawyer." He goes, "He got abducted by a religious cult."
Yeah, that's right. And he also was a big fan of Phyllis Diller.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said that. And I mean, when she was on.
And Johnny Carson, huge.
And Johnny Carson.
And that broke it for me. When Johnny laughed at me, my dad, then he was like, he called me up one time. It's in the book there, and I did a show, and I made Johnny laugh impromptu, like really cracked him up. And my dad called me the next day. First time he ever called me. I'd been doing it probably 10, 11 years by then. I'd done a ton of Tonight shows, Letterman's, Merv Griffin, HBO special, everything. And my dad never called me, but I made Johnny laugh really big. And the next day my dad called me and said, "You're really good at this."
How did that feel? I mean, you must, like you were
Off my back,
7.
man. It was a huge weight off my back.
Yeah.
Huge.
Isn't it funny how that goes, like that constantly searching, for the I don't know, the accolades, the approval.
The approval, man. It's flat
like
out
what drives
approval.
you.
You want your dad's. I grew up. There was a saying I heard growing up. You're not a man till your dad says you're a man.
Yeah, I know. That's very true, right?
And you felt it. Like, you're nodding your head. I mean, right? And I felt it. I was constantly trying to get his approval. Look. Another thing I heard once was, if you want to be happy with your chosen profession for life, find something that your dad did that wasn't really good at. That he wasn't really good at, and do that. And my dad was funny, but he wasn't professional funny, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I said, I'm going to go do that. I'm going to get really good at that.
And you had to earn that. I mean that
yeah,
at that moment. I mean, some of the things that, and I did, man. I've been reading your book. Like, I started it, and life gets in the way. Then I had to move. But when I got the book, and then I would go back to it. And today I got to really. I'm a fast reader. I'm an intense reader, and I couldn't put the book down. And people are instant messaging, they're talking, and about the show. And I'm just like, oh my God! I'm telling them, but you believe this guy? He hung out with the Rodney Dangerfield story.
You like that?
And I mean, I want people to read the book because, when you see these personalities bigger than life, and he was also his movies and stuff like that.
He was huge when I started. Look, when you talk about this transition, right? Because every stand-up comic has to make that transition from being funny in the moment around your friends, like you talked about being funny in a bar with friends, That's being funny, like off the cuff. Like Mikey's funny off the cuff, right?
Not
You have
tonight.
you have to make that transition.
Oh, we'll
Not
get
tonight.
you there, Mikey. We're coming after you
We're
next.
coming after you.
I see you over there with your orange little microphone.
But you have to make that transition to
Right.
being funny on demand in front of strangers.
Right.
That's the big shift. Like you have to learn to do that. That's the Mikey Wacken, right? You did it at the Comedy
Yeah.
Store a few times.
Yeah, I was a Monday night guy.
Well, get out of here. You
Oh,
get
yeah,
out of
We
here.
hang out, and by the time I went on, it was like I used all the drugs that I planned to sell that night, and it usually didn't go well. But the other guys liked me, and But Rich had told me I didn't have the burn. I didn't have that drive or ambition. I wanted to do it, and once in a while, it was okay. But most of the time, I just took a beating. And like, man, you got to be too tough to survive this game.
Yeah,
I knew it was
well-
a game. I grew up in North Hollywood. I was around show business my whole life. Patty Duke was a neighbor. I saw, like the trappings. And this is cool. But when I tried to go for that, I was like, no. I couldn't. I was too self-obsessed. I took acting. I had an acting teacher tell me, you're too self-obsessed. to
Really?
act." Oh, yeah. And I tried all that stuff. And then my life took a lot of turns. My career was always interrupted by usually cops. And and then you know what? It was just like it got out of hand. And then I got sober, and it was like meeting Rich and guys like him. Well, he's one of a kind, but that and then just following that life's trail, And it was it's cool. I enjoy how my life turned out,
Yeah, well,
He couldn't overcome the bombing.
Yeah. Oh,
and every
yeah.
comic
yeah,
has to
that-
overcome the bombing because you bomb when
yeah.
you first start. So you have to take that beating. But I was so addicted to the laugh. See, he wasn't as addicted to the laugh.
See,
It
I
was,
would.
it was
had
more
to have it.
narcotics.
Yeah, his drug addiction overcame his laugh addiction. But early on, my laugh addiction was stronger than my drug addiction.
Well, I
Yeah, but
believe
you-
that because the adrenaline rush, like the only way that I can explain to people, I was a singer as I told you, and I got up at a dare at a it was a gong show, and it was in Brothers Forum, Falmouth Heights, which was huge. This club was huge, and I did it out of spite. The woman, I hated this woman, and she just kept badgering me. And she said, "Why don't you get up? You think you're all this? You think you're all that?" I go, "You know what? I'm gonna get up." So I got up and I started singing, and I never sang in front of anyone except my sister was like, "You can do this," and the crowd went nuts. They had me do 5 songs. People were yelling my
What was your
name
first song?
on the beach. "It Don't Matter Anymore" by Linda Ronstadt, as clear as
I
day.
remember that song.
Yeah, and not only that, when I had to audition, there was a guy that ran all the circuits for Holiday Inns, Al Vega, and he had a partner. And I walked into his office. I got a Scully cap on. I got the stiletto heels on. I was a hot little thing I was a 21. And I said, "I don't know why nobody's making a lot of money off me. I can sing as good as I look, and I can dance even better." And I had that kind of balls. I always had lady balls. And he asked me to sing to his partner. And he held the phone. He goes, "Go ahead, kid. This is your 2 minutes." And I ended up getting the Holiday Inns were the biggest paying jobs, but successfully. That's how it was back then. The addiction was there. The minute I got off that stage, I hear what you're saying. Transitioning that into comedy, because I was Willie Barcena challenged me to get up, and I did a 7-minute at Clancy's Irish Bar in L.A. They have the back room. They have a Jameson thing on. And the woman didn't know that this wasn't my regular gig. So I kind of beat around the bush. She goes, "So, you have a radio show?" "Yeah, it's Comedy Hour," which I do. She goes, "Well, oh yeah." She goes, "Well, where do you do your comedy?" And I went, "Boston." Because there's no tracing me from there. But the other comedian, who was Drake, this big, heavy white guy, which is, he's like made jokes about being the same name as Drake. He said to me, "Have you ever done this before?" I go, "I've done a couple of open mic nights." He goes, "This is an open mic." I went, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "Your first time?" I went, "Yep." And you wrote a thing in your book about this. That big thing that you had where your brain for the HBO, you went blank.
Yeah, I did my HBO special, my first show. I was out there doing it, and all of a sudden I stopped. I went, I don't know what I'm doing next.
Right.
I just
you said that
completely
on
froze.
stage.
Lost it. Oh yeah, I copped to it. I just stopped and looked at the audience and go, I don't know what I'm doing next. I wrote about it. It was really interesting reason it happened, the whole build up to it. Luckily there was a second show, and I stroked the second show, and they just dropped the first show. But yeah, it was stopped. And you can't once you do that, the magic's gone. I mean, I came back and started doing it again, but I started doing different stuff. I started playing around because I couldn't really just go back and do material. It was a whole different thing. Once you do that, they're like, oh, okay.
Well, there was a few things. Now, when I took the stage, the woman introduces me. Now, I guarantee you somebody's going to screw my name up. My name's AnnaMarie. And they always go, AnnaMarie. So when she's a tough woman, too. She's walking off the stage, and she introduced me as AnnaMarie. So I grabbed the microphone, and I said, that's the fucking thing about my name. Nobody can ever get it right. Now, I'm watching the playback because I had somebody video, and I actually see this woman stop, and now she's turning on me because I know she wanted to hand me my ass about mispronouncing my name. But then she realized I was going into a spiel, and she goes, okay, this is part of what she's doing. Right. So I get that, and I do the thing. I'm from Boston. I say, no way. You got Ben Affleck, and you got, Matt Damon always do, and they get the worst accents. Everybody knows it's not ka, it's ka. Well, the audience laughs. So I do the Boston thing, and if I was paying attention where I was going after that, my mind went blank. All I knew was keep talking to AnnaMarie. So I talked about a lot of things, which the guy, when I got off stage, said to me, I can't believe that's your first time up doing comedy. He goes, can I tell you something? He said, comedians practice for years just to be confident. And he goes, you're already starting there. He goes, you just need to work on
Well,
content.
you're transitioning from singing to that, so you had stage confidence.
But comedy?
It's totally different, but a lot of comedians, back in the day before, comedy was like on the bottom of the totem pole. Back in vaudeville, it was the last thing you did to stay in show business.
Right.
So a lot of comedians were former singers or dancers, so they had stage presence.
Right.
You already had stage presence.
So that braved it.
Right.
But you
Right.
guys, I have to honestly say, the other thing that you wrote, which actually for me that was, the guy said to me, this is a small room. There's a different, they're looking at you. That's good. They're listening. They're nodding their head. Laughing in an intimate setting, some people, they don't, not like a large crowd. And you said that.
Right.
You said that, it's so much easier to get laughter from the masses than it is.
Well, it's also like a bus. You got to get them going in one direction and make the turns real smooth and easy. It's a momentum game. When a small room, it's like a sports car. You can stop and start. You can change subjects. You can lose momentum, lose them for a second, pick them back up fast. But people laugh because other people are laughing. So the more people they hear laughing, the more they laugh.
Because it's contagious.
Right. It's contagious.
You can watch a baby. It's true. I mean, that
absolutely,
just starts.
Absolutely.
And you gotta. So do you have an idea of where the momentum's come? Like when you're playing to an audience, do you actually go out and get an idea of where that momentum starts? Do you actually see the people?
You can feel it.
You can feel it.
I go up there. I can hear the different laughter. I can hear if it's getting too bass, too many men laughing, not enough women laughing. I can hear where the pockets are stronger. I mean, it's like you're playing the audience sometimes, their laughter, and you can adjust to it. And then I can feel when I'm running them out of breath. Like if I'm running them hard, they're laughing a lot. I go, okay, I'm going to stop now, let them catch their breath, and get another roll going. You can feel it. You can play it. You've been doing it a long time.
Do you coach people? Do you teach?
I love that. I love doing that. I've done that a lot.
Because I might have to sign up with you. Because, well, in reading that, and like I said, I don't want to give away everything in your book. I could tell. I could just. Because everything that reading everything and wanting to know, well, what happens next? Because I would say to any comedian, get this book. You guys all have this hamster wheel in your head, and like this is my biggest beef. Opportunity. How many people do you know that you meet that are given opportunity, but they either they don't recognize it or they ask questions like they second guess it, like.
I have no idea about the window of opportunity, but I do know that, like, what Rich is talking about is years and years of experience.
Exactly.
When I was that Monday night guy, I had a guy, you probably know, Tim Thomerson, and he took a shine to me, and he said, you're funny. He goes, it's going to take you 10 years to find your voice. And I go, I'm not going to live that long. And he goes, that's good, but it was true. I didn't have that lifespan going. And what he's talking about is years and years and years. He could help direct you, but the coaching, that can help and direct. But I think it's like sailing. The only thing important is time on the water. The rest of it's just like, you can learn all the terminology, but unless you've taken those ass beatings
That's it.
and those successes.
Well, that's a fever pitch.
And
You guys hit. I mean, it's not. I'll see the comedians come in. They'll do an open mic night, and then I'm like, okay, they do their set. Boom, they're gone. I'm like, where you going? well, I'm going to hit this one. The
multiple,
drive.
multiple. You only get better through stage.
Right. That's
Pre-
what they,
it's
what-
stage
that's what
time.
they
It's stage
said.
time. It's all function of stage time. The more times you go on stage, the better you get. You can't sit at home and practice it.
No, you can't.
You can't be
'cause-
like Rupert Pupkin from King of Comedy all alone laughing at yourself or playing a laugh track back. You can't find out what's funny that way. The audience calibrates your humor.
Right. And that's what if you find out what jokes that you dropped your political stuff because you found that
yeah.
what
Well,
they
Rodney
were laughing
Dangerfield,
at.
one of the things he told me, he says, you tape yourself. You're gonna tape yourself, kid. You're gonna tape yourself, man. You gotta listen to yourself,
His
man.
best impersonation, right there.
My
right
only
there,
one. My
right
only
there,
one.
Right there.
You gotta tape yourself, man. You gotta listen to that tape, man. The audience will tell you what's funny about yourself. They'll tell you, man. The audience, individually, they may be orangutans, but as a group, they're genius. And
that's so true.
It's so true. So when I listened to the tapes, and Phyllis Diller told me this before too, because Phyllis Diller told me the same thing. The first time she called me was 1986. She saw me on the Tonight Show. It was like my third one or something, and I did some relationship jokes. And she goes, "You got to do more of those relationship jokes. That's your gold." Which I knew that because I was listening to Rodney, and I was doing more and more all the time because I listened to those tapes. And when I talked about political stuff, I got this Jersey mush mouth, sound like an idiot, so nobody wants to hear me do political stuff. So I'd give it to my friend Bill Maher. If I had a political joke, I'd give it to Bill. He did the
I love Bill Maher.
He did
He
the
did your
intro in my book,
introduction,
right?
yep.
So back in Many Men 79, so I started around 80, 81, just dropping the political stuff and giving it to Bill or other comics. So I would just do stuff about, relationships or anything else, but they wouldn't buy me doing political stuff.
No, and that's where finding your voice comes in.
Right. Right.
When you first hear that, they were all saying, it takes you 8 years. You know how long it takes to find your voice? And I'm like, what does that mean?
No, it's also losing all the other voices. Because when I went on stage at first, I was a mass of all the influences.
Okay.
I love Richard Pryor, I love George Carlin, Robert Klein, and listen to Lenny Bruce. So I go on stage, I'd sound like a black Jewish guy from Brooklyn, you know what I mean? Like a hippie from Brooklyn. I mean, I was all confused, So you have to strip all those voices away. Like the first time my buddies saw me when I grew up in Jersey, right? My buddies come to see me. They maybe saw me like 19, I don't know, whatever it was. I started doing 77. Maybe they saw me like 79 or something, And I did okay. I did a good show. And they all came up to me, hey, great, it's great seeing you, man. It's cool you're doing this, right? And then they saw me a couple of years later, right? And they come to the show and we're partying. They go, hey, man, you got it now. Now you're funny like you used to be funny. Now you're funny like you were funny. The first time we saw you, we did like it wasn't Rich up there. You were like
Right.
you were doing this comedy thing, but it wasn't really you. Now you sound like you. Now you're like how you were funny when we were young.
And that's your voice.
And
right?
then that's my voice.
Yeah.
So it's not finding someone else's voice. It's just stripping
Finding
away
your-
everything to be yourself. Because you first go up there, you're kind of still like kind of self-conscious. And what they saw in you, what that guy said to you, he said, you got a presence. So it looked like you up there. But
Yes.
you'd still have to do it a while to find out what was really funny about you.
Right. Well, I found that what was amazing is the things that I touch on in comedy and what I've learned from you comedians is that keep your story, your truths, your ability to be vulnerable in front of people, and the Simi Obeyed came on. He said, I had a girl break up with me, and I'm up there doing comedy, and I'm crying on stage.
Hey, listen.
And in the audience, they embraced me, and I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. And then you work that into comedy, and they know you're real.
Look, comedy's all about vulnerability. Comedy, when you have outsider status, you have instant vulnerability, right? So I go on stage. I'm a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy. So me, the audience is going, where are you going to bleed, man? Where's your vulnerability? Why are you doing this? See, if you see somebody who's a minority or somebody who's like maybe has outsider status, right? You get it immediately. You
Right.
get it, right? If you see someone go on stage that's really overweight, you go, I get your vulnerability. I get what your problem is. It's obvious, right? But if you see somebody go up and they go, they're not. So I learned to do like stuff about myself. I couldn't do math or I can't do this. Bleed for the audience right off the bat. So they go, okay, you're vulnerable. You're we see that.
Real.
Oh yeah, you're real. Real.
And I also, this was really funny. I had, and I read about this. One of the guys said to me, whatever you do, AnnaMarie, try and stay away from dick jokes. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, don't rely heavily. You can tell the new comedians, and I've talked about this on my show.
Sure.
And I'm like, seriously? He's like, well, yeah. He says, or the other thing, going to see women comedians, the amount of funny, and I don't know, you tell me, do you find there's a lot of refiltered same jokes told a little bit differently?
Wow, man, I read the book there. I did the Maury Amsterdam story. There's really nothing new. And the more comics you have, the more everybody kind of sounds the same these days. That's the real problem. So that's why people like to work the edge a lot because they want to sound different. But things have changed. It's all cyclical, But you're absolutely right. The easiest thing to talk about is sex. It's the easiest thing. I mean, look, you'll have dick jokes. I have a box full of dick jokes when I need them. And there'll be those nights you go, if I want to get out of here alive, I got to feed these beasts dick jokes. So that's what you'll do. But you don't have to bring them out all the time.
Right.
And you don't have to put them early in your act. And if somebody's following me, I'm going to stay away from them so I can keep the stage and the audience kind of out of that area before the next act comes on. So a lot of comics don't give a crap anymore because they only work for themselves.
Right.
So they don't care about the rest of the show.
Right.
I just want to do as well as I can. Well, you're the second guy on stage. You're doing all dick jokes. What's going to happen next? Because the audience now is in libido land. And once they go there, they're just thinking sex. They don't want to hear about your car troubles. They don't want to hear about your mom being overbearing.
Can you tell me some of the differences of what you see now in comedy?
Well, yeah, it's changed hugely for women. When you talk about it, hugely. It's almost a double standard has switched. When I started doing stand-up comedy, women didn't talk honestly about sex. A lot of women would do old sex jokes at the end of their act, but they didn't really talk honestly about it. And now today, women can talk more honestly about sex than guys can. A woman go on stage and talk about banging a bunch of guys, getting drunk, banging this guy, I suck this dick, that dick, right? And the women are like, yeah, sister, that's it, talk about it. And the guy's like, yeah, talk more. Right? And if a guy goes on stage and starts to talk about all the women he's banging, they'll shut him down fast, right? So the double standard has switched.
Wow, that's
and so women can
interesting.
do that, and you see a lot of it. And now sometimes even too much, because that's something they can get away with, and it's easy. But it's not gonna. It's not gonna. I don't know. You can do whatever you want to do.
Right. I know that anything goes, but also like I don't know. I'm amazed at how the club, everything is in the club's favor. They have all this talent that comes out here. These kids are working for, these people, I should say kids, they're working for you guys worked for nothing back then too, right?
We did. And then when the boom started, and I wrote this in a book, I mean, all of a sudden they had packed audiences in the early 80s. The clubs opened up doors, they were packed. So it wasn't about putting butts in the seats. They didn't care. They had them in the seats. Who could hold them in the seats? And who could make them walk out of the club that night saying, that was the best thing I ever saw. I'm going to tell all my friends at work, you got to go to this comedy club, man. I laughed like an hour and a half. It was unbelievable, right? So they wanted people spreading the word. So they wanted good comics. So they pay you more and more. Your salary doubled, tripled. All of a sudden, we were making huge amounts of money. People you never heard of were making six figures a year.
Wow.
With no TV exposure
I know a lot
whatsoever.
of comedians right now are crying, going, what happened to that?
Middle acts were getting $2,500 a week in airfare. Opening acts were getting $1,000, $1,500 a week. Now, headliners, if you can't put butts in the seats, every headliner across the country, coast to coast, $250 a set, basically. That's a basic.
How did that? Well, one of the things
because they can't. There's more comedians than available audience members now. They have so many comics. Look, when I started, I did a count. 1979, top to bottom, from the top. Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Robin Williams, to the bottom. Guys barely making a living. Vegas comics, Catskill comics, everybody. 400 or 500 comics in the whole country. You got 500 comics in Toledo now.
Yeah,
when I started
you're right.
you'd go to a party back in 1979. Somebody go, "What do you do?" I go, "I'm a stand-up comic." You go, "Stand-up comic." Hey, look, I never met one before. Unbelievable. You go to somebody, they go, "Yeah, I did it. My mom did it for a while." Everybody's done it.
Right. And that is why I said it's almost as if the clubs are the pimps and these are all your hoes and you guys are all getting because...
Well, they're not making much money. A lot of the clubs aren't making much money either.
And
the clubs are smaller then. The clubs we worked back then, Cleveland Comedy Club, it was like 120 people in a club, right? They were smaller clubs. 200-300 were good-sized clubs. Now today, they're almost theaters. You watch the Improv in Houston or Miami, they're basically theaters. So they'll curtain off when somebody can't draw, but on the weekend when they bring somebody in, who can pack the place, right? Well, they're doing 700-800 people. That comic can make $25-30 a weekend.
Wow.
But the rest of the time, they shut it down, and there's like 40-50 people, there for free or whatever. And they're just selling drinks. Now,
I'm surprised that you've been in the industry as long as you have. The idea of, and you ever quoted the idea of having your own comedy? Like, What would you do differently? I mean,
You know, every comic says this, and every time, you know, you ever seen the movie Taxi Driver?
Yes.
Peter Boyle played a character called the Wizard, right?
Yes.
He was a taxi driver along with De Niro. He had this great line. He goes, you know, you take a job, you become the job. A cop becomes a cop, he becomes a cop. Guy becomes a cop, he becomes a cop. So a comic becomes a club owner, he becomes a club owner. Every time a comic goes, I do it differently, I was a club owner, they become a club owner, man. They start, we didn't draw much this week, there's no bonus. They start doing everything the club owners do, you know?
You can't get away.
Yeah,
It's the nature of the beast.
It's the
is
nature
what
of the
you're saying.
beast.
Yeah.
You take the job. So there's no way I want to become a club owner because, first of all, I'm terrible at business.
Okay. Yeah,
I'd be the one to be
knowing
closed
that.
down in a while because the comics. Look, we comics, we're an infestation. You know, we come into a place, we infest the place. You know, we take it over, and we'll take advantage of everything too. So the comic, it's a symbiotic relationship, but it's like the scorpion and the frog story. You know, I mean, you can't help. The comics can't help but try to get over, and the club owners are trying to get over. Everybody's trying to get over.
Right, and if you're not like there wasn't always this many. You know, you got the comedy clubs are like McDonald's. There's one.
Look, you know what was great? When everybody's making money without even trying. That's when it was great.
That's when
the club owners are like, you want Coke? I got Coke for you. You want more Coke? My
yeah.
buddy Kevin Rooney said back in the day, you know, they give you all the free Coke you wanted because it kept the monkeys talking a lot, kept us chattering a lot. You know, cocaine, give the comics cocaine. They were up on, get them chattering.
That's right.
But if you ask for a sandwich, you go, I half price on a sandwich.
Yeah. Well, you know, I find that like I was out, I saw this young comedian, brilliant. This kid was brilliant. Okay, he actually lives in his van. So I said to him, you know, and then of course the thing is, you know, the drinking and all that stuff that goes on while they're there, while they're after. And I said to him, "Can I ask you a question?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "Man, you're brilliant. I mean, I've seen a lot of. It takes a lot to make me laugh. I come from funny, whatever." I said, "You're really brilliant. The way there was a situation. This kid, at the last second, you couldn't swear. So a lot of these comedians weren't told about this until they were actually getting up to go on. And now you got to switch gears, everything, right?" And he's like, what do you mean? He can't swear. He goes,
That's where you find out whether your jokes are real jokes or not.
But he played off what happened, what was going on in the room, and the people in it. He was brilliant. So he's
What's his name? You remember
He's
his name?
drinking. I should know his name. I have him in my phone. He's another one.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I'm watching him, and he's drinking, and I said to him, "Can I ask you a question?" He says, "What?" I said, "This is like your job, right? This is like your life, your passion. You're sacrificing everything. You're living in that van out there." He goes, "Yeah." I go, I'm just, could be me. I'm a little older. I'm going to give you some advice. Treat it like a job. I said, "You never know who's sitting here watching you." I said, "You want to party? Go somewhere else." Somebody comes up and talks to you, or let me tell you what they see. And this is what I was told. I had the pleasure of being interviewed by a big to-do at a studio, and he said to me, that it isn't failure people are afraid of and mess up, it's success.
That's right.
I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, when you're failing, you got excuses. You can have excuses. You're failing. Because when you're successful and you hit that, now you got to show up. Now you got to hit that clock.
You got to hold it. You got to hold it.
And
That's
he
right.
goes, that pressure
That's right.
destroys a lot of people.
That's right.
And I'm like, that makes so much sense. So I'm looking at this kid, and I said that to him. I told him the story, and I said, "Do you know what someone searching for talent sees? If you can't maintain at this level, what are you going to be like if you're this way now when the pressure's on?" Because it takes a lot of people out, as you know.
Yeah, sure.
You know, drugs, alcohol, it destroys, and so much of that is in showbiz. It's like that and everything else that goes with every deadly sin.
Right.
Come to Hollywood.
Right.
Yeah,
right. And then you see the ones like Robin Williams, who obviously did a lot of drugs when he first started. And he's so brilliant. I mean, people knew he was doing drugs, but he was so brilliant and such a burning ball of flame that everybody was attracted to it and like going to watch it. And then he got sober, and he was still, you know, when he quit the drugs and alcohol, he was still brilliant. I mean, the talent. When I first look, I thought for a long time that the alcohol and drugs was part of keeping me on the edge. It was part of why I was funny. It
Isn't
was
that the lie everybody tells?
Exactly. And then I found out I was funny in spite of the alcohol and drugs, and that was a huge revelation for me back in '85.
Well, because that is actually stepping into yourself, like in a way that when you said that any insecurities and doubts,
Right.
that you feed yourself those lies by saying I'm stronger, I'm more powerful, just let me drink.
And I'm not going to deny. I'm not going to say, oh, don't drink and don't do drugs, because they did a lot of things for me. They knocked down a lot of walls. They tore open a lot of roofs that I was able to see through and get through. And when you come into town and you're a stranger in a town, you have a couple of drinks, man, and all of a sudden,
Yeah, everybody's
buddy, man. So I meet everybody. I'm out there. Everybody likes to hang out with me, right?
Well, yeah, but in that formula, like when I go out now, the thing that I'm doing to get my show, and any kind of, you can give my show, please do, but to get people to understand my show is the way I present it is I have to be, and everybody wants to buy me a drink, and I'm a lightweight. I always was, so I'm one and done.
When you say everybody, are you saying like young men?
Yeah.
I like
that.
I know something. Everybody wants to buy me a drink.
Yeah.
Just
Young-
profile to
just
everybody.
profile,
That's all.
yeah.
I'm trying to narrow
Hey,
it down
mother,
a
you
little
want
bit.
a drink? Yeah. And the thing of it is too is it's like I don't want to miss any details. I want to be aware when I'm watching comedians, and also when I engage with them after they get off stage. And this is for what I do. I have to know that they enjoy talking. Obviously, it's a talk show, and there was a couple of them that I was like, yeah, man, I don't care what you get an award or whatever. No way would I have you sit in my chair. You'd be like death. And I do know that not every performer is a great interviewer. True.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Did
There are
you-
people who have an act. Look, first of all, you have to realize every stand-up comic is not naturally funny. There are people who learn to do stand-up comedy. I know stand-up
That
comics who
amazes
never
me.
say anything funny off stage, but you can learn how to do it. You can learn. Look, you can learn how to be funny. You can watch it and learn how to do jokes. Maybe you're an actor and you can pick up how it's done. I've seen that. I mean, the true comics. I mean, you see people. I see people. I go, that person. You see a Sarah Silverman, a Bill Burr,
Right.
You go, that person could not do anything else.
Right.
That's who they are. I mean, no matter where, if you drop them down into a foreign country, in 6 months they learn the language, they'd be doing comedy there.
Yeah,
That's who they are.
That's who their souls
Yeah,
are.
that's it.
Yeah.
And there's other people I go, they could do other things. They're salespeople. They're good at selling. They're good at selling themselves and their act. But I've hung out with people off stage that never say one funny thing. They're not
Right.
naturally funny.
It
But
did-
when they go on, they turn it on. Steve Martin was a guy who turned it on. He would turn it on, right? Like, I think there's a famous story where he was backstage once with Robert Klein. And Klein, like a lot of comics, they take different approaches how they get ready. Some people get quiet and before they go on. Klein would like to, get loose, joke around, start getting funny like Bill Cosby would, back in the day. He would get funny before he'd go on and tell stories. And Steve Martin was sitting there and he quietly looked at Robert Klein and goes, oh, you're one of those guys that is on all the time, right? So there are different types. And that Steve Martin's obviously one of the best ever. But he could turn it on and turn it off more.
Which is
most comics can.
right.
He has obviously has whole different sides to him, many different sides to him as a writer and an actor.
I have to ask because,
Yeah.
and I know it's the most cliche question, people, but I have to ask, who inspired you as far as like where you really learned? And I know you took pieces from everybody,
Yeah, I did. I learned from a lot of different people.
that are willing to, and I find that,
Yeah. I learned from Jerry Seinfeld. I learned from a lot of different people, but who, I saw those people live before I started doing it. I saw Steve Martin live twice. I saw him first time in I think 76 at the Kennedy Center. It was like about 1,000, 1,500 people. I didn't see Richard Pryor live, but I saw George Carlin live. I saw Robert Klein. I saw Martin Mull. I saw a lot of
Oh, wow,
stand-ups
yeah.
before I ever started doing stand-up. I was a big fan of it. I had comedy records, and so I was a big fan. So I would say Robert Klein was the one, honestly. I mean, maybe it was just a night or whatever, but I first saw him. He did an hour and a half. He blew me away at American University in, I think, 1974, 75 in D.C. And I was
Wow.
just blown away. And I went, I don't know if I could ever do that, but if I could ever do anything like that, that's what I'd love to do. But I couldn't admit it to myself. I couldn't really own it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
him for days afterwards. I would be at parties doing him.
Oh, really?
Oh yes, I always did that when I was young. I remember being in a bar. I'd do John Cleese's Ministry of Silly Walks.
Oh,
and people
yes.
thought I was genius. That was my shtick. They go, he did a funny walk thing, and I was just doing John Cleese.
John Cleese, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was ripping off a lot of people back then, but I was an amateur and I was okay, you know.
Yeah, but you know, and there's such a generosity. I found here, like the comedians really embrace, because every single comedian that I thought was out of my range, even you, just to go up and say, hey, I know I'm like absolutely nobody, but will you be on my show? And all of them would say, sure, kid, I'll be on your radio show. And then the thing I was going with opportunity, this is a true story. The one young lady said to me, well, what's your radio show? How many listeners do you get? And, if you come and see one of my shows, maybe I'll think about being on your radio show, which is what? And I actually said this. I said, it's called Opportunity. And I have seen your show, and I did meet you. And as far as my listeners go, I got the radio show. You need to get your listeners. This is your opportunity to use my Facebook Live. I guess they're pissy about playing music now, and but YouTube Live, and it's archived. You can actually tell your people they can go find you and see you.
Well, I have to get all the information because I want to put that on Facebook tomorrow.
Yeah,
I want to put that out, so I have to get all the information.
Yeah, it's pretty much
because my people want to see me.
They do want to see you. They want to hear
and Mikey
you.
Aloha. The legend of Mikey Aloha.
Do you know how many people are gonna be like, and you have Mikey with you? Mikey, you were on the radio? How come you didn't tell us?
I've been on the radio a couple times.
And then what he didn't know is I said to him, because he had the hat on, I said, Mikey, they can see you.
Oh, yeah, the hat had to go.
Look at the head of hair on you bastard.
Wife
Look at that head of hair.
I know. I'd rather have a trust fund, but I got good hair.
Yeah. One of his favorite lines, Mikey says, he goes, I live alone with my wife.
Yes, I do. For 36 years.
That's one of my favorite lines.
36 years.
That.
She's still trying to scare me into it. She's like a ninja. She's so quiet. I want to put a bell on her or something to make some noise.
Wasn't it Clouseau? Wasn't that? And then he
no, yeah. She's a Green Hornet, man. She just sneaks up on me all the time. Hoping I drop dead.
Oh, that's hysterical.
It's all right.
36 years, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, most of it good behavior.
Mostly good behavior.
Yeah,
well, you have to. Does she have a sense of humor?
A little bit, but yeah, she's funnier than me. Much funnier. She makes me laugh. The first album I ever heard.
There's a man who thinks his wife might listen one day.
I know. She's very tech savvy. She'll be able to archive this and edit me out.
But the first record you ever heard?
The first comedy album I ever heard was Sandy Barron, and it killed me. It was brilliant. And it was titled, I think it was Never Let High School Interfere with My Education. And it was funny, and just like Rich, my dad laughed at it, and I knew that album. I knew it. 40 years later, I go to this place called Studio 12 or Magnolia, and I met Sandy Barron, and I told him, I said, dude, you were the man. And I got to be friends with him for about the last 12, 15 years of his life, and it was amazing. He was like the top of his game in the 60s.
He was.
Wow,
indeed.
yeah.
Him, Van Meter, Alan Sherman. There was like all these
He
East
did
Coast
concept
guys.
albums as well as regular
And
stand-up albums.
I was
He had
blown
about 3 or
away
4
by
albums.
that. And then when I met him, it was like, he was what, a generation older than us.
Definitely.
And I met him. He was an old, God bless his soul, an old junkie. But he was a great, great comedian in his day. And I got to meet him, and that was like
Did he think you were funny, Mikey?
Yeah, he thought I was more annoying than funny. But he was broke, and I'd take him out to coffee, and we'd just hang out, and I'd make him laugh. He'd make me laugh, and that was one of the things. Like I said, I grew up in North Hollywood. Whenever I meet an actor, it doesn't go well. I meet a comedian, and we bond.
Go well?
No, it never goes well with actors. They're like, "Hey, how am I doing now? You're great. You're great. You're doing good."
True.
But when I meet comedians, they're like me. They're broken and they're bitter.
True.
And
don't you love that, though?
And then they have their own perspective on life. Most of them have a different point of view. Rich was talking about the edge. Most of them have their own point of view, a personal philosophy, survival stories, besides their act. And I got to know a lot of guys. And when I was doing all that, spinning my wheels Monday nights, I did high school talent shows. I worked at a Gary Mule Deer in a nightclub that all it was they had a band over here, couches over here. We were trying to talk over the band. And it was ridiculous.
What was that? What was the name of that place, remember?
Tennessee Gin and Cotton.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a
that
hell
was
of a
like
name.
in the everybody was just.
Where was it? Where was it located?
Like I think like Corbin and Ventura, big nightclub.
Out in the
It was,
valley.
yeah, and it was happening, and so there were big names, and I would get like 5 minutes go on with these guys. Did the Palomino a couple times.
Now, see-
got in fights on the stage. It was great, and so you know what I like Rich said. I never had the burn. I would try, and then like. I'd have to, do something different for a year or two. But I always bonded with the comedians. It was just like they're an outlaw group. They're all pretty much loners.
Right.
They're not
Right,
in a band.
right.
They're not in a band
Well,
and blame it on the bass player.
right, but this
they're
is
out there
the-
living.
We
and
have a band
dying.
in our heads. We,
Yeah,
we
they're
have to
out
make
there
joint
dying
decisions.
on their own.
We have
But-
voice in our head.
In saying that, like you said, that obviously that whatever it is that you kept pursuing, that you just kind of like meh, take it or leave it. You
I
like
wasn't up
hanging
for
out
it.
with them.
I wasn't up for it.
But
and I
everything
knew
that you just said about comedians and all that, that's what this show's about. Them bringing all that. That's what
I bring
they
the
do.
perspective of the beginner who can't get going.
Right.
That's me.
That's you.
Yeah, and now I'm like at the end of the line, going,
Well,
could have been a contender.
You could have been, but that's something like where you find the most joy. I mean, there was a time in my life, obviously being a singer, I was driven. I had one guy wanted to sedate me. He said, "Well, you've got delusional and you're
Cosby?
manic." I said, "No." He said, "No, not that." That was good though. You hot shit, you. It was my drive. I said, "I'm going to be famous. I know someday." And I had this epiphany going. Well, you can be famous wherever you go. And literally everything I've ever done, the jobs, like I'd start out at a job. The job that I left, I had these two brothers got bought out by Warren Buffett, Jordan's Furniture in Boston. I actually had a dream when I was a little kid. I wanted to sing the national anthem for the baseball teams. Okay, I ended up doing that. I moved to Florida, and where they had their spring training, I ended up auditioning for the Rays. Who Joe Madden, the last year he was with the Rays, I went to a thing that he was at, and he was leaving, going to the Cubbies, and I was like, "Gonna win the World Series. You're gonna win the." I knew it because this guy. That funny feeling I told you about. But the whole thing about doing all that and going back to, they started it, and I kept saying in my head that it doesn't matter. I understand it isn't about, I don't need to be famous. Every time I go to the grocery store and look at those magazines, they're like, would you really want that? Because you're under so much scrutiny, and people that don't know you think they know you, and they have this way of ownership of your life.
And you get
right?
good seats at restaurants.
You
and
do,
you get doors
though.
open
Yeah,
for
all right,
you.
the perks.
There are two
So
sides.
maybe I should thrive for that.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. I didn't get into it for the fame, and it's been
No,
working out real well too.
Yeah, I mean that. Well, not
He's
the
sticking
fame.
with his
Yes,
plan.
sticking with my
Sticking
plan.
his plan.
Yeah, I got in. I came in just because I got seduced by the laughter, and I just wanted to hear more and more laughter, and that was the drug for me. And so it was a couple years before I even realized I was in show business. So I had no idea about. I had no
you
feelings
doing?
about show business. I'm going to become famous and all. I just thought, well, here's the next thing you're supposed to do is this. The next thing you're supposed to do is this. Like when I was doing it for a little while, and I moved to New York, and everybody's like, you got to get on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. That's the goal. It's like, okay, I'll work toward that.
Wow, and I hear that the preparation for that you practice those
Yeah,
you-
there was
you go
only
through
one.
that.
There was a guy, Albert Brooks, who was the natural. That I heard he used to just come up with his ideas, run them by his friends, maybe on the phone or whatever, and then go on a Tonight Show and do it.
Wow.
But everybody else was
That's an
practicing those
anomaly,
bits. He's an
though.
anomaly. He's the
Yeah.
freak. He's the natural. He's possibly one of the funniest men I've ever seen. So he's different. But everybody else has to practice and hone them, and you work it. And it's a weird little thing, a talk show set, because you're taking you're taking jokes from different bits, and then you're stitching them together. It's like a greatest hits thing. You take one or two jokes out of your big rental car piece, and then you take one joke out of your losing your dog at the park bit, and you take little jokes and you stitch it all together with these weird segues. People go like, yeah, and then they end their water skiing bit, and they go, when I come out of the water, my hair is always messed up. I was getting a haircut the other day, and then you
Segue.
Yeah, segues.
yeah.
These
Well,
strange segues.
I was told you have to have a beginning, middle, and an end.
Yeah.
And-
But you plan your bit, and then you learn in a talk show. Like I go, the first joke, they're just listening to me, so don't plan on bringing the biggest joke out first. They're just seeing who you are, right? They're checking you out. Then the second joke is good. Then the third joke's your first really hit it joke. That was my plan. The third joke was the big first. Bam! That's the one I would get the first applause with.
That's the big deal. I was going to say that when you hear the
applause, because
That's-
and also you have to learn that you don't do any more tags. When they applaud, that means that joke's over. So if you had more tags to that joke and you do it in nightclubs, drop it. Don't do another. Move to the next joke.
Wow.
Because they're saying, and the audiences on TV, they know they're participating in the performance more than the nightclub audience. Like they're very aware that you're on television. So that applause is them saying, we're here and we approve of that one. We approve of that one heartily. So there's a whole different dynamic with television audiences than there are for nightclub live audiences.
Well, the advice that you would give because I would imagine if I was a young comedian, which I'm not, but if I was a comedian, which I could be, I would walk up to you and I mean, I know you teach, but you must have them. Do you critique
I
them?
I mentor and I talk to comics.
Right.
And I don't teach. I don't charge anybody. I've heard people do charge. I know that, but I do workshops where I just do it for free, and I like to talk to comics about it. I mentor. But people who have money and are great comics, then I write for them.
Okay, so you do the writing.
But that's different. That's like, those are comics who can afford it because they make so much money. Right?
And
So
it's a very
different.
small select few. I mean, when
it's just different.
You have that, and I would have to say, that because I'm from the generation, where I understand the difference. Like comedy is just, it imploded.
We hung out all the time together. All the comics hung out all the time.
Right.
So everybody was learning from everybody. So I got so much free advice back then.
Right, and now you're giving back.
Right. So you're like, I didn't know there was work to be had, real work. You kind of figured it out, but there's a lot of advice that I was given for free. So why shouldn't I pass that on for free?
Yeah, I have, that stigma where people say, like Mikey said, somebody said 10 years, and I'm like, oh shit, I'll be really old if I was going to get into. How long will I have to do this?
It's a function of how many times you do it. Some people do it less. If you do it all the time, I didn't take any days off my first, 10 years of comedy. I don't know if I took a day off, or maybe I did. I can't remember.
I don't know
to
how
get married, maybe to get married or whatever. But the first
Did you have
5
a
years,
day
never,
job?
Never. I mean, I did when I first started, but it ended, in 79 when 80 when you started making money. That was it. But I didn't take days off. I remember once reading an article, Richard Pryor. It was a Rolling Stone article or something. And he'd gone to Hawaii for a vacation, and he said, "I walked on the beach for 2 days. I go, I can get back, man. I'm afraid I'll lose my funny." Like comics are afraid of losing their funny. I don't think any guitar player or a drummer wakes up in the morning going, "Gee, I don't know if I'll be able to play my guitar today if I forget how to play my guitar."
But that's a
a
drive
fear.
that comedians
But comics
have.
are like,
Have
if
to
you
be in
stay
front
away
of
for a
people.
while, I could lose this. It's like delicate. It's like it's a thing that needs to be worked all the time. And the only way I can do it is in front of a live audience.
It's more elusive, right?
It's more elusive. It's like, I don't know. Comics can lose it for no reason. You go, comics just lost the funny. You could see it. Somebody goes, I don't know what happened, but they just lost the funny. So
Right,
comics have
right.
more of a fear of that than a musician does.
It would seem to me that, the pressure to be, like you said, funny on demand, getting a finely tuned as to like the timing and listening.
Right.
I mean, that's key.
Sure.
Is
Sure, because there's a story I told in there about Robin Williams, right? And the first time I saw him in '79 at the Improv, and he just destroyed the audience. It was the height of his fame, really, of just coming on the scene, '79, and he destroyed this audience. And I'm standing back room. I was the MC. I brought him on and brought him off. I'm standing back room because the next acts are dying. I mean, he just wasted the audience. Like you couldn't follow him, and he's standing next to me. And he just says, not to me, but to no one in particular, he goes, "They laughed at everything." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I can't even tell what's fun anymore." He couldn't tell what was
Wow.
funny. See, they laughed so much at everything easily that he was having a hard time figuring out what was real and not real about the laughter. It was throwing him off.
you had to want that
You have
dilemma.
to have like the different levels. Like this one was really funny, and that one's not so funny. Okay, I know what was funnier about this one, and not as funny about that one, and this one didn't work, so I'll go work on that. And you need all that.
Yeah, he had that sheer genius like that. I mean, there's
Well, there's no performer I've ever seen like that.
yeah, no, and you probably won't.
He wanted it more. My theory is the audience recognized that he wanted to laugh more than anybody else. I mean, he obviously had great performing talents and a great mind and the ability to perform. But there's also that little, if there's an X factor, if there's an unknown quantity, it's that the audience perceives that this person wants it more than anybody else.
Well,
And they give it to you. They give it to you.
You have. I've just been given my 2-minute warning,
Yeah.
which always
Oh,
is
it's like
amazing
football.
to me. Wait, yeah, it is. But I want to
Time
say
out.
this because, I usually ask the performers say where they're going to be and what they're doing. First of all, I want you guys to understand. Where can they get this book?
Amazon.com.
Okay. And you have another book, which I'm going to get. I want to see your first book.
That's a compilation book of stories from everybody, from Chris Rock, Jay Leno.
And what's the name of that?
Ray Romano. That's called I Killed.
If you don't go out and get
Mark
I Killed.
Schiff and I compiled that together 10 years ago.
Because there's a learning process. I don't know if comedians still do that, if they understand that, you go to the masters.
I try to cover
You know?
every aspect, everything. Writing, heckling, every aspect of stand-up I try to cover.
And Andy Kaufman, that was quite a story, too. That was mental. You guys got to read the Andy Kaufman story, too. And are you still, obviously you're still performing.
All over the place.
Where are you going to be? I got to come see
April
you.
13th, I'm going to do the stand-up stories. I'm going to do a whole show of stand-up stories at Kulak's Woodshed.
Oh, my
in
God, I
Studio
performed
City.
there. Oh, I will so be there. That way I could walk there.
Yeah, I'm going to do that April 13th.
Oh, I will be there.
I'm driving him there that
Mikey
I'm the
will be
wheel man.
driving.
I'm the
My
wheel
man Mikey, my man
and-
Mikey.
wheel man.
And Mikey, you're just showing up wherever he is. And you guys, thank you,
You
so
can
much.
find him in select meetings around town making people laugh.
Yes, you can. Tune in next week, guys. I got another show. I'll have Chris Pipkin Mercer. He is on. He has his, he'll bring his funny. This young man is brilliant. He's also quite the, shall we say, he also does Soul Cycle. You'll enjoy that show. It's going to be a whole lot of information. I'm sure the energy will be high. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Anna.
Thank you,
Anna.
AnnaMarie.
Thank you.
See you out there.
Okay.
Yeah, you got it going on. Yeah, you got it going on. Yeah, you got it going on. You got it going on like them collard greens. You ain't gotta say nothing like the mannequins. Can we live woo? Can we be friends? Maybe we can spend the weekend in the B-same. She straight, she ain't got no loose aim. She ain't no gold digger, she don't need a plane. An independent lady, she don't need a man. Can I have your autograph? Can I be your fame? I'm you that queen that's on the promised lane. Together we'll never fall, we stain again. Listen to what the hook is saying. Yeah, you got it going on. Yeah, you got it going on.
It's not your grandmother's talk radio, but she is welcome to listen. ThePowerOfVoices.com.
I'm Nancy Renee.
And I'm Adrienne Shapiro.
We're the founders of Access Advocacy, a nonprofit for the benefit of people with sickle cell disease.
We provide education and support for families, caregivers, and the medical community.
Join us every Tuesday at noon Pacific Time on thepowerofvoices.com.
We'll talk about current issues, what's on the horizon for treatment, and how to help families living with chronic diseases. And we look forward to you joining us on Tuesdays at noon Pacific on thepowerofvoices.com.
I am done with my mattress.